Australian woman who fell ill at a luxury resort in Fiji has landed on the Gold Coast following a cocktail poisoning scare. Let's go live to Tamara Bowe at the Tweed Valley Hospital. And Tamara, the 49-year-old was transferred across the border last night.
David, what a huge relief for this family. This has been such a harrowing ordeal. And finally last night, she arrived back on home soil. On board a Medivac flight, she arrived into Coolangatta Airport just before 8 o'clock local time with her daughter by her side. She was brought here to Tweed Valley Hospital, where she'll no doubt undergo testing by an Australian team before being cleared to head back home to Sydney. But what an ordeal. On Saturday, she and 6 others at a 5-star resort in Fiji ingested a toxic cocktail. While sipping those pina coladas, they became desperately ill. That led to 4 days spent in intensive care before that Aussie woman was finally cleared and allowed to come back home. And I think we were all expecting to hear the words methanol poisoning, but at this stage we've been told that is simply not the case. Fijian authorities have conducted further testing on ingredients used in those cocktails that were created at that 5-star resort. And at this stage, guys, it looks as though it's come back that no methanol was detected, and that has ruled out alcohol poisoning, which raises even more questions. If not that, what was it that caused such a violent reaction in so many people at the same time?
Yeah, great news for that family. Thanks for that, Tamara. Here's Mon.
David, thank you. Now to a sunrise weather alert. Queenslanders are bracing for even more dangerous rain and flash flooding following yesterday's downpour. Let's go live to Georgia Costi, who's in Brisbane. Now, Georgia, multiple emergency watch and act alerts have been issued overnight.
That's right, Mon. As we go to air this morning, residents in Jandowae and also the South Burnett areas are being told that they need to secure their belongings and enact their emergency plans because flooding in those areas is now imminent. Meanwhile, here in southeast Queensland overnight at Wivenhoe Dam, which is our biggest dam, they actually increased releases, all in a bid to try and get rid of some of that excess water. We also have 19 other ungated dams which are continuing to spill, and that just gives you a little bit of perspective on the sheer amount of water we have seen over the last few days here in southeast Queensland. Yesterday we also saw some really extraordinary pictures, people driving through floodwater, roofs collapsing. Mon, the good news for us here in southeast Queensland is that this weather system is moving north, but that does mean for people in Cairns, Townsville and Mackay, the heavy rainfalls are expected today, and that is why we are on track for the wettest December since 2010.
Yeah, wow, and that was a huge one. All right, Georgia, thank you.
All right, let's get some more news now. Here's Sally.
To breaking news in Melbourne's north, and a gunman is right now on the run after a shooting in Pascoe Vale South. Let's go live to Andrew McCormack at the scene. Andrew, the victim made it to hospital. What more do we know this morning?
Well, this man has taken himself to hospital after being shot just before 10 p.m. last night outside a fish and chip shop. Witnesses describe here on Moreland Road in Pascoe Vale South a man and a woman arguing just before 10 p.m. last night. Police then attended the scene after reports of gunshots. A BMW was later taken away and towed from the scene with blood on the driver's side, and coming out the driver's side door, there's actually quite a big blood trail here outside this set of shops here on Moreland Road. That man in hospital with non-life-threatening injuries as this shooter remains on the run this morning.
All right, thank you very much, Andrew McCormack there. To more breaking news, and a massive blaze has broken out at a house in Adelaide's northern suburbs. Live to Hayden Nelson. Hayden, firefighters are working hard to battle the flames. What's the latest on the ground?
Yes, Sally, they're in their final stages of putting out this fire and clearing out any spot fires in this home in Valley View. They were called here just before 3 o'clock. Firefighters arrived in their numbers. They saw flames had taken over the roof of the property. They used breathing equipment to go inside to search the property for anyone inside and put out those flames. Luckily, there was no one inside at the time. The home has been found to have no one living in it. There's no tenant resident here at the moment. But at this stage, police are also at the scene at the moment. They're holding point guard until fire investigators can arrive a bit later this morning. Sally.
OK, thank you very much, Hayden. Former Sydney radio host Alan Jones has broken his silence after pleading not guilty to 34 charges of indecent assault during his first court appearance. The veteran broadcaster has called the allegations against him baseless or a distortion of the truth.
Firstly, let me say this. I am certainly not guilty. The law assumes that I'm not guilty, and I am not guilty. I am emphatic that I'll be defending every charge before a jury in due course.
An extra 8 charges were filed by police before his hearing after a 10th complainant came forward. Jacqueline Symes is preparing to make political history in Victoria. The regional MP, who's currently the Attorney-General, will be announced as the state's first female treasurer. She'll replace Tim Pallas after he revealed his intentions to resign from his 18-year political career. Ms Symes will be saddled with the daunting task of trying to drive down Victoria's eye-watering debt. The appointment is part of a wider reshuffle of other cabinet positions, expected to be announced today. 2 Malaysian men involved in the 2002 Bali bombings have been released from America's military prison at Guantanamo Bay and returned to their home country. Live to US correspondent Tim Lester. Morning to you, Tim. What's behind this move?
Well, Sally, this another striking step in the 2 decades-long fight for justice over those who died in 2002 in October, those 2 lethal strikes on night spots in Bali that killed 202 people. Hambali, of course, held in Guantanamo Bay for many of the years since 2 other detainees, Malaysian men who essentially assisted him, Muhammad Farid bin Amin and Muhammad Nazir bin Lep, sent overnight or sent now back to Malaysia for the supervision of the Malaysian government and de-radicalisation program there, apparently after the giving guilty pleas last January in Guantanamo Bay and also assisting prosecutors there in building their case against Hambali. Hambali, of course, the leader of Jemaah Islamiyah that carried out those bombings all those years ago. So the 2 men finally released. They were only charged in 2021, having been held since 2003, but the guilty pleas and a plea deal has now led to their return to Malaysia. Sally.
All right, thank you very much, Tim Lester there. Distinguished Australian author John Marsden has died at the age of 74. The novelist wrote the critically acclaimed Tomorrow book series about a hypothetical reality where Australia was invaded by an unnamed foreign power. The books are loved across the world, selling millions of copies and earning both a film and TV adaptation. Well, Victoria is forecast to have some of the best weather to spread some Christmas cheer. Let's go live to Tegan Doling, who is in Melbourne for us today. Tegan, we now have the official national forecast from the Weather Bureau for Christmas. Looking like it could be perfect barbecue weather there.
Here, there, and I think everywhere actually, Sally. It's going to be dry, sunny, warm across 90% of Australia, which is some wonderful news. There is a chance we may see a few showers, but that's up in the tropics, far north Queensland, where it's kind of expected for this time of the year. So if I have a quick look at the numbers that the Bureau has released, 35 degrees in Adelaide. That's going to be the hottest capital city, 33 in Canberra, and then it drops down to 29 in Brisbane, 28 in Sydney and in Melbourne, and then 25 degrees over in Perth. So this gives you ample time to really prepare for Christmas Day. Go and dust off the barbecue, wipe down the outdoor setting and make sure you have enough dishwashing liquid for the slip and slide in the backyard. I think that's where most of us are going to be spending our day. And if you're not there, the beach is actually perfect as well, I think, for Christmas Day in most capitals as well. Sal, a bit of cricket down here at the beach, I think, is what is going to be on a lot of people's cards for Wednesday.
10 out of 10. All right, thanks for that forecast. You did well, Tegan, you did well. To other news now, and a commercial TV broadcast fee labelled a tax on journalism will be scrapped by the Albanese government in a major win for the news industry. The 1-year suspension of the commercial broadcast tax from June next year was confirmed in the government's economic report yesterday. It is something the industry has been fighting for quite some time.
So would you consider dropping that fee?
Look, that's not what the Communications Minister is looking at the moment. She's looking at trying to manage some of the financial issues being faced by media companies through a news media bargaining code. So it's somewhere a little bit different. Well, that will be a question for the Communications Minister. What I do want you to understand is that good news is really important for our country.
The move will provide around $50.3 million in tax relief to commercial TV and radio broadcasters across a 2-year period.